anniversary of great visionary Mahatma Gandhi ji. He propagated 18 virtues for the wellness of the human beings. Today, in this forum, as we discuss about the empowerment, Mahatma Gandhi becomes very relevant. My organization, SKDRDP, Shri Kshetra Dharmasthala Rural Development Project, under the leadership of dynamic Dr. Virendra Hegde, has tried to implement all the 18 virtues espoused by Mahatma. SKDRDP has applied holistic approach for transformation of the community.
And also the various participants who come from different countries. I'm very honored to be here. I was gently reminded by the Dharmadhikari that even last year during this day I was with him in one of his programs. I repeat in most of the occasions where I have an opportunity to speak about Dharmasthala that I've had a very personal and my family's personal regard as regards the Dharmadhikari. So today, not because I'm the finance minister, but even otherwise, at a very personal level, we have a great respect and regard for the extremely committed work that this Manjunatha Sanstana Dharmadhikari-led movement has been doing over the decades. So I humbly submit my appreciation to the group. Self-help groups and the movement may have started 30 years ago, and from the various speeches that we've heard, we are looking for emulating the example of what Shri Kshetra, led by the Dharmadhikari, has achieved, so that we can have that replicated in many other parts of the country. But we are still trying to replicate it. That itself holds the core message. We can repeat or replicate SHG movement, but the traction and the confidence with which it gains acceptability of all the stakeholders, whether the beneficiaries or the institutions which support it, is because of the people who spearhead it. It's not always possible to replicate the engines of such facilitators who make it possible in one place. To clone them or to have them elsewhere is itself a big search. And that's where, when we say Karnataka is the first one, yes, Karnataka is a pioneer in many ways, in many things. But on this particular thing, where we are talking about a blend of spirituality, commitment to the society, empowering women, and making today, one of the first speakers of this evening highlighted why we are here today, not just to widen or deepen the SHG movement, but to lift these empowered women to a higher level of, you're not just being SHGs anymore. You're not just being SHGs anymore. We had 1,000 yesterday, we want 10,000 tomorrow. Yes, that will also happen. But one very significant observation, which probably is the objective of what is being achieved, let's say, now onwards, is even as we multiply and bring in more women to be a part of these SHGs, we are trying to now move them up the ladder by saying they should become entrepreneurs. That's what is significant, and that is not a measurable achievement at all. You can't measure it. Because what you've given the women is first the self-confidence to come together. What you've given them is meager resources. And what you've given them is the ability to be able to have the volatility of money which is being circulated among themselves. And after that, you're able to replicate it among many other groups. But then when you're scaling that up and telling these women that now you can do something on your own, you have the entire system which you're familiar with, you're going to be helped, now you can stand up on your own and do things either as a single woman or with a couple of women. You're giving them the power to now decide and move forward, take decisions, and be able to lead other women to go along with them, through which an economic activity spreads like ripples in water. That's actually the way in which local economies sustain themselves. And when that comes to a stagnation, is when you think nothing is happening in the society. But what this movement, particularly led by the Dharmadhikari, has done is to bring all these women together. Over 2 decades, you saw them grow in numbers, positively generate a lot of economic activity. But now you're telling them, you can lead yourself together with other women. And I'm so glad to say here that this approach is so much in sync with what the governments want to do. After all, the governments can take decisions, can allot resources, and find institutions such as banks to, give that traction to it, and be the facilitators or the catalysts to move that money forward to people. But actually who leads and motivates them are people like the Dharmadhikari, who, standing in front, leads the pack, as it were, to say, look, we're all with you, you can sustain yourselves, you can do it, now move forward. So the government's approach also in the last 2 or 3 decades has been, C. Ragarajan, the former governor's name was taken. Whether conceptually that was the way in which it was decided a couple of decades ago, or you formed and graduated from bringing women together into SHGs. That movement spread. Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh, even today stand out as distinctly large numbers. I understand the numbers that you're talking about are somewhere like 4,75,000 SHGs. That's not a small number. And if I understand, each group has about 20 women, 10 women. 42 lakh families. So those kind of numbers you can't even think anywhere else. We can hear about stories in Nicaragua, we can hear about Colombia, we can hear about Peru, Chile. Yes, very much kind of things that we like to hear because experiences happening everywhere in the world is important. But this is not with a sense of pride, but I must say everything in India is very large. 4,75,000 achieved by Dharmadhikari himself is a very big number, which means the bottom line for women, the bottom line of leadership among women is already very highly set. And now when it goes sync with government, I am trying to say it's such a coincidence in planning between the local level, panchayat level, regional level, and the level with which the government wants things happening. So immediately I can see a big success again in this movement, where you're trying to lift these women to become entrepreneurs. The Mudra loan, which Prime Minister has been very keen to push ahead with, already has about 70% women participation, sometimes varying to 60 to 65. But majority of those women, majority of those beneficiaries in Mudra, which is, you know, has 3 different compartments, are essentially loans given without security, particularly for women, to become entrepreneurs or on their own, or if they're doing small-time trade, they still get assistance with money being given from the banks. Now, when you have people like, or gurus like the Dharmadhikaris leading a movement, it becomes very easy for the banks. I hope I'm not saying something beyond that. Whilst I'd like to credit them for what they can claim as achievement. But when you have a social and religious and spiritual leader leading the pack, banks find it absolutely easy to find credible clients, and that is why when NABARD would come and proudly say, well, most of them are returned, there's no worry, it's because of that. The presence of the Dharmadhikari. I'm not being harsh on our own institutions, but our own institutions also should recognize that social leaderships, religious leaderships, and spiritual leaderships all combined together do give you that institutional strength that you're looking for, particularly when government comes up with loans like Mudra, where initial hesitation among institutions would be, oh my God, look at this, government wants to give loans without security. Banks are finished. No, banks are not finished. Banks can come today and stand before you to say, it's successful, people are returning the money, poverty alleviation is being cleverly addressed, so it works. So the banks, together with social leadership, are able to bring the social transformation which governments plan and which Prime Minister Modi dreams of, becomes very effective, especially when you have leaders who have that kind of an influence on the people who actually matter to the country. And there, singularly, the credit goes to the Dharmadhikari. And that is where such leadership, if present in other states, and I'm sure there are several such social leaders who also bring in a certain dimension of leading people's minds and thoughts, become the agents of such economic transformation. So social transformation they do, spiritual transformation they do, but they are now also becoming agents of economic transformation. And in such districts where dryness, aridness, lack of rain, lack of irrigation can all now upset the calculation, you have a very riveted leadership which can lead from the front. And when institutions understand that kind of a strength is prevalent in the leadership, they also tend to do their core banking business better to achieve the social objective. So in this context, the SHG movement in Karnataka, yes, has made a very big change to the lives of women, particularly those who are in the poverty line region. And therefore, I would think, together with the entrepreneurship that government wants to be embedded in women, the stand-up and start-up, the stand-up particularly when you're given, assistance to every district, every branch of every bank, who are expected to give that kind of assistance without security for the deprived, the SCs and STs. And I remember in the budget that I presented in July, we had said that for each SHG group, the government would give up to 1 lakh of rupees for starting a business if any one of those women would want it. And also for every SHG group, we'll also extend additional working capital requirements up to 5,000 rupees. It was announced in the budget. It was announced in the budget, and we tend to look forward to having to expand that on the merit of the kind of achievements all of you are doing. So I would think now, when your objective is to move forward to bring in entrepreneurship among women, the government's thought that Mudra should help them to start their own activity and women should become the entrepreneurs. I think the blend is fine. Good institutions, good banks, NABARDs and SIDBs, together with Dharmadhikaris, can do miracle for our society. So with that said, I know there is quite a lot of challenge before us, particularly Karnataka, where at a time you had over 3 continuous years of drought. Then you suddenly had floods in those districts which would never expect a flood of that nature that they suffered this time. And now the coastal districts are facing that kind of rain. In all this, I was so glad to hear that where flood has ravaged the place, people have now looked up to see how the soil is now infused with water, and they think they will have better returns in the farms. So the challenge has been seen as an opportunity, and I've just heard that being said by the Dharmadhikari, even as I sat next to them. If that is the way leadership is built among people, without crying victim, they've seen an opportunity. That itself gives strength, and I would think the banks should rush with loans to help them do the agriculture better. I hope they've heard me. I hope they've heard me, and I want them to rush to those places to say, all right, much before the water evaporates, much before summer sets in, take the money, do your agriculture and earn your profit and give me back my money also. So banks can also, as the villagers have felt it, should feel the pulse, be closer to those who lead the people, and be able to do business, core business, commerce, and therefore keep the chain, the virtuous cycle that was being said, cannot be touched otherwise. You can't remain far away from it and say, somebody build up the virtuous cycle. The virtuous cycle has to be built if we are closer to the ground. If we keep our ears on the ground, you know how the people are feeling now. In dry districts, in districts where water infusion is successful, rush with agriculture. And therefore credit should not become an issue even when the other things are now favorable. So I do not want to take too much time. There are people who are well entrenched in the activities of the SHG. I hope this meets all the success, and I'll certainly be keen to know what the outcomes of the discussions are. The experiences which are coming from all other countries are also equally important for us to understand how things work elsewhere, for us to also emulate them, as and where we can learn the lessons. And I once again thank Dharmadhikari.
Inspiring words. We are really motivated.